Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar about agent attraction. We'll give folks a few minutes to jump in here. But if folks are in the room and wouldn't mind suggesting telling us where they're from in the chat, that would be great. So we can start to see who some of the folks are in the audience. All right. We have some folks from Colorado. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. Some folks from Austin, Texas. Nice to see you, Noel. Thank you for joining today. Tamily from Tampa. It's great representation around the country. I'm not able to see all of you, so if you are in a position where you want to ask a question, we have Gina from New Hampshire. Please just put it in the chat. I'll get right to it. Take an opportunity to jump in there if you have any questions or anything I can clear up for you as we're going through this. All right, so we'll get started. My name is Sean Soderstrom. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Courted. I am super excited to be chatting with you today, primarily about agent retention. So we're going to talk, broadly speaking, about agent attraction. And we'll be talking a little bit about the size of the opportunity, what types of agents move. We'll look at some data, and then we'll look at Courted specifically and how many of the fastest growing organizations within eXp, as well as the corporate team, how they're using Courted to their advantage when it comes to agent attraction. So I just want to maybe start with the size of the opportunity. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. And what I'm going to do is pull that up. Let's see. Hopefully you'll be able to see it in a second here. So what we're going to start looking at is just the amount of movement that we see in the industry, right? So people talk a lot about agents migrating, and I think one of the important things to do is to put some context into, well, how much actually moves, right? So when we think about it, agent recruiting is pretty consistent year over year. So in 2022, we saw about 18% of agents moving. In 2024, we saw just under 15% of agents moving. And so you can actually see here which types of agents move more than others. And this is kind of broken up by production. So the group that moved the most in 2024, as you can see, is that $1 to $5 million sales volume band. And so, first of all, why is this important? If you're actually going through a proactive agent recruiting or agent attraction process, it's worth paying attention to which types of agents move more than others. Now, this chart's a little bit misleading because there are not as many agents in the $5 to $10 million production bucket as there are in the $0 to $1 million production bucket, for example. So if we actually look at this slightly differently and we say, how much sales volume actually moves between companies and where did that come from? We start to see the typically most attractive segments for you to think about if you're going after agents on a more proactive basis. So clearly here, 78% of the sales volume that's moving between companies is actually coming from that $1 to $25 million production band. And I think there's kind of two interesting insights here. Hi, Irene from Miami. There are some folks, people, the biggest producers in the country, when they move, they tend to get a lot of media attention and it's picked up in newspapers and rankings and whatnot. But top producers moving only account for about 9% of the sales volume that moves around the country. So that's kind of one end of the spectrum. At the other end of the spectrum, it's not to say that recruiting brand new agents is wrong or doesn't work, but in terms of the production that they end up contributing to brokerages, we're seeing kind of very depressed levels of that. And there's a NAR stat which is quite commonly referenced, which is 85% of agents drop out of the industry by the end of year 2, which is really unfortunate. And often it's because they're not finding the right company to be a fit, that's a good fit for them. Now, I think that those numbers are actually going to be higher when they come out, when they look at 2024. So this idea of basing your attraction strategy exclusively on brand new agents to the industry can ultimately not yield the most productive strategy, because it's harder and harder in this depressed market for folks to be able to actually make an income. And so thinking, I'd encourage folks to think about this kind of $1 to $5 million segment as kind of one of the primary areas where you can get a lot of agents moving and a lot of production comes along with them. And we actually can do this on Courted for each specific market, and we're not going to have the time to do that right now. But these are the types of things that we tend to look at. Hi, Ken from Detroit. When we think about the types of agents to go after. I'm going to jump into probably just one more slide here, and then I'm going to talk specifically about the platform, and I'll kind of show you some of that. So when we just generally speaking think about the 3 best practices when it comes to attraction, and I should have preferenced, don't hold this against me, but I used to lead national expansion and growth at Compass in the early days and spent a lot of time recruiting agents. This is many years ago. There were kind of 3 themes that came up when running kind of an efficient process. And this can be if it's just you doing it, but this is also true if you're in an organization where you have a lot of different people participating in the process. The first is that we target extremely precisely. So this idea of we're going to email everyone at an office or email everyone in an MLS, like that typically doesn't yield the best results. What we want to do is to look at characteristics in the agent's business that might mean that they're more likely to engage with me. So let me show you how to do that in a second. The second thing is, and I know that all of you are going to be able to relate to this concept of mass communication, while it's easy to send out, is not particularly helpful to receive. And it's very clear when an email is sent to many people. And so people have a very good kind of radar for that. And what people really want is for you to show that you're communicating to them specifically. And so the key thing in attraction when it comes to communication is that we're going to want to celebrate something really specific about the agent's business. If we can celebrate something that they may not even know about themselves, that's really where great things happen. And then following up diligently. Actually, in practice, what that looks like is if you can be the first to celebrate a notable thing in the agent's business, you can imagine kind of being on the receiving end of this. Your listing goes pending, and then the first person to celebrate you before it even closes, when it's just gone pending, if it can happen within an hour of that listing going pending, that's where you can really get someone's attention. And so what we're going to show you on Courted today, and we're not going to have time for a full exposition of the platform, but the idea of the platform is to use data to your advantage, right? And to actually get you to the point where you can reach out to someone extremely quickly. So I'm going to jump into the platform here. And I'm going to start with a very common place in Courted. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to look for agents for whom maybe there's some vulnerability in their business. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second. So in Courted, and this is one of the great benefits of working with eXp, you can actually sign up for MLSs kind of around the country because we have a corporate relationship with the company. So you could actually pick markets that are actually not the market that you're in or in the market that you're in. It's very easy to go about doing that. Now, so I'll go ahead and I'll pick a place. So I'll say Phoenix, Arizona, but you can really pick anywhere you want. And what I'm going to try to build is a list of agents for whom there's some, I'll call it vulnerability in their business. There's something going on in their business that leads us to believe they're more open to a conversation with you today, okay? And so what I might do is I might look for people who are not managing brokers. That's very helpful to just remove some of those folks from the list. Maybe we want to look for folks who have not closed a deal in the last 90 days. So we think about that for a second. We do want people who are producing, so we might want to put a minimum for production, and I'll actually go ahead and do that. So I could put it in terms of units, or I can put it in terms of of sales volume, which I'll do here. So I'll say $1 million of sales volume. But over the last 12 months, over the last 90 days, they haven't had any closings. So no income for the last 90 days. I'll add on the no active or pending. So they're not actively working with listing site clients right now. And I will start with that. Let me see what that does. So I have 754 agents that meet these criteria. Okay. What I'm going to do is narrow down the list. And this is what we're talking about with precision targeting. We're going to try and develop a small list and have high quality communications to that list. Corded is actually well known for having predictive analytics. This is actually a branch of AI. You might have played around and used large language models. I use ChatGPT all the time. That's a large language model. We have large quantitative models as well on Corded, and those are actually proprietary to the company. So basically what we're doing when we have this button of high potential to move, there's a whole bunch of math going on. Essentially what's happening is we have access to the information of every single agent that's ever switched brokerages over the last 20 years, including you, if you've done that. And then we can look for patterns of what's common and consistent about agents before they leave their brokerage that we can observe that's different than the agents that stay. The result of this high potential to move bucket is 4 out of 5 agents end up moving brokerages. So that's a very good way to go from a long list to a smaller list, because again, your time is extremely valuable and you don't want to spend too much of your time with folks who are not able to make a move right now. So here we can see a bunch of agents. If I was sorting this list, which is again still a fairly long list of 225 agents, into a group that I might actually want to go after today, I'm going to sort by declining production over the last 12 months. So these agents have actually gone down in production somewhat dramatically over the last 12 months. And so I'm going to just pick on an agent here that I can see and actually go to an agent with a little bit more experience. So we have this agent here. We have contact information on the left-hand side of the page. I have an overview of their production over the last 12 months. So how has it trended over time? What's the mix of buy-sell? And I'm always looking on the profile for something interesting that I can say to them. So I can see, the close to list price ratio. I have the days on market. I can actually see where this agent has worked over time. So this agent started at a company called My Rental Superstore, which is actually where they work today, moved over to Keller Williams, then went to Real, and is now back at My Rental Superstore with an average time per brokerage of 1 year and 3 months. And so what we're doing is we're kind of building this understanding of the agent extremely quickly. And, we can look at that and say, okay, maybe they just switched, but if they don't do a deal at that new company for, it's already been since December, they haven't done any deals at the new company, maybe that's a reason to reach back out. So we can build that understanding very quickly. We can see, for example, if you wanted to talk to them about their average sales price, maybe being able to be improved if they were to join your organization, that's something you can talk about. You can see other agents that they're working with, all of their transactions. So this company, this agent is actually very rental focused, which again, at this point we might say, actually, let's move on to the next one. And we can very quickly move to the next agent. Now we're looking at an agent at Compass who's actually down 69% year over year. We can see where they've worked over time, home smart to Compass. And maybe it's an opportunity to keep more of their income at eXp. We can see where they work on the map. These are all kind of clickable. These are the homes that they've transacted on. And then it gets to the point where we need to reach out. Rahul, I think you have a question. I don't think we can see you, at least I cannot. But thank you for the question. What do we say to an agent, right? And so this is where it gets into personalized communication. This is where we use Compose AI. And Compose AI is our large language model that sits on top of MLS data that's updating in real time. So the problem in my experience with recruiting when it comes to communication is either we're trying to be efficient, so we're trying to send out a lot of communications, or we're trying to be effective. So we're going to spend 40 minutes going to 5 different places to figure out what to say to them. Compose AI is attempting to bring that all together. So this example is actually an email that you could generate. And if you click on that right there, you're actually going to get that email in wherever you sent emails. That's going to be visible in your sent folder. It's going to come from you. It's not going to come from Corded. And so you can see that right there. You can also flip that over to a phone call script and talk a little bit more about the benefits of the company or your organization. And you can see this type of message is being generated. You can translate it into other languages. You can make it less salesy. It's very customizable over here. And this is the way that we attempt to never have writer's block when it comes to reaching out to an agent. So we can actually get to the point where we say every 2 minutes that you're uncorded, you should send one of these messages to an agent. Now, you may be asking, okay, and I get this question a lot, what happens if I reach out, I leave a voicemail, and I don't get a response back from the agent? Is it time to stop? The answer is absolutely not. We should not be transactional when it comes to building relationships for attraction. We should be consultative, and we should be building relationships. So what does that actually look like, right? Aside from just, I need to call the same 15 people every single day. You can actually go to this section here, which is pipeline real estate activity. So think of this as like a news feed, right? Like a Facebook news feed or a news thing that has all of the most recent updates of all of the agents that you're tracking. These could be across the country. This could be directly in your market, whatever you have access to in the platform, wherever you're trying to attract from. And so I can see here, Robert Burgess just put this property into contract in Georgetown, Texas. So if I was trying to be, really on the front foot when it comes to attraction, I might actually think about giving him a call, but we're not doing a big introduction. At this point, we're just trying to celebrate the thing that has occurred, right? And so this is going to be a way where we can actually continue to build the relationship and nurture things that are going on. And we can have different triggers for what's actually, what we're being notified. And so it could be the new listings. It could be that I want to reach out to people when there's expired transactions and offer a note of celebration. With an expired, it's condolence and how can I help? And this is a tough market. All those types of things. So very easy to go through and do that as well. We also, for those that are pressed for time, and I'm sure all of you are very, very busy. We actually have a different view, which is we'll actually recommend agents to you. And so those would be maybe people who have done a deal with folks at eXp, people who have worked at the company and subsequently declined, people who have a high likely to move and no active or pending near you. So you can kind of see all of those types of things here as well. And this is a way that we bring 30 agents to you in a way that you don't even have to go searching for them in the first place. Now, there's another way of thinking about things. And so let's use that an example maybe of looking in the, in the Miami area, because I can see that Irene is calling in from Miami, Florida. So you may be curious, like, what's going on with the different companies in the local area? And so this is a way that we can see all of the different things that are happening for all of the different brands. And we can search for specific types of companies, big companies, small companies, growing companies, shrinking companies. And what we can see here, for example, is that Keller Williams in Florida is actually down 14% year over year. Relative to the other companies, you can see eXp is up 14%. Keller Williams is down 14%. So this makes me curious as to whether I want to consider a recruiting strategy that is more focused on a specific company, maybe where there's some relative weakness. So if I go over here, I can see, yes, that they recruited, close to 200 agents, and 151 agents left Keller Williams in the Miami area of the last 12 months. And I'm kind of curious if there are some specific areas I want to dig into. So now we're looking at, Keller Williams in the greater Miami area with 1,700 agents. And 948 of whom have done a deal in the last 12 months. Production's down. What I'm curious about is when agents are leaving Keller Williams, where do they go to, right? And so what I can do here is I can see 151 agents left and $228 million of sales volume left over the last 12 months from Keller Williams in Miami. What I'm going to look for here is, where did they go to? And this is where I find something quite interesting. The company that Keller Williams in Miami has lost the most agents to over the last 12 months is actually eXp. And I actually see the individual agents that have left and come over to eXp. And so when I look at something like this, I'm thinking, here's an opportunity for me to capitalize on this trend of folks moving over to us. And so we can actually take a look and we can say, okay, which are some of the offices that we care about? And if you're looking at Keller Williams Eagle Realty here, for example, they're down 30% year over year. This Keller Williams Miami Beach Realty is actually down 56% year over year. So now I'm going to jump into this profile for this specific office. And what I can go to is I can actually see some of their agents are high potential to move. And here I can see the list of agents that remain, right? So there's actually only 2 producing agents that remain in this office. And so we may want to go to a slightly bigger one that's actually declining. I can go to this one here, 115 agents are still here. And there's a number of agents that are high potential to move across the production spectrum. So this is a way that we can start to use market information to focus that approach of who we want to reach out to. And we can take advantage of the fact that eXp is actually growing from a number of different brokerages where we might feel that we have a competitive value proposition and maybe better economics to offer them and other things like that. We can get a list of, this agent here, right? Steven, $5 million producer at this office that's losing agents. And we can kind of see their production. So this agent's actually up over the last 12 months, but does actually forecast it as a high potential to move, given what's happening in their office dynamics. So Irene, I'm glad that you find this helpful. We could actually do this for any one of you in your local markets. And this is the type of thing that folks will do. And again, we don't want it to be too much research. We don't really encourage folks to be playing around with filters for too long. When you get set up, and we do this for all of the eXp teams, we actually get you set up with an onboarding with a person. And in that onboarding, we set up the exact perfect searches for you. So you can just get to that point where you're on a list, you go to Compose AI, you reach out, and then you just click next. And then you go to Compose AI, you make a phone call, and you click next. And that's how we get to the point that we can send high quality communications that are personalized, that make the agent feel seen and supported by you. But we do that in 2 minutes, and then we move on to the next agent. And so that's how we do it. Now, if any of you have actually done a lot of recruiting in the way that I have, you may be familiar with this problem of having too many irons in the fire and too many things going on to remember what we've done, right? So if we're in the process of calling and then in 2 minutes later making another call, we need to stay organized. And this is where the pipeline becomes really important. So first of all, if you've seen and engaged with kind of a marketing funnel, you'll have different stages of, they're at the top of your sphere of influence, like maybe you just met them, all the way through to they transact with you, and maybe hopefully then they transact with you again. We think that same approach of thinking of this kind of funnel-based way of managing your recruiting or traction pipeline is very useful when it comes to managing your work. So you'll see different stages here of connected to meeting scheduled all the way through to contract out. And there's a number of ways to kind of stay organized here. So for example, what you could do is you could say, who are all the people that I've contacted? So maybe I left a voicemail, sent an email, but I never actually got on the phone with them. Okay, so there's that group of people. And in my account, there's 63 agents. And let me see those that I interacted with furthest in the past. So here are a whole bunch of agents that are really folks that I've reached out to, but I might want to follow up with again. And so that's an interesting way to go about it. Rahul has a great question, which is on the retention side. So I think there's a couple of ways that we can go about doing this. We could actually look for our individual agents by name if we want to. And what we'd recommend doing, and again, we can set this up for you in the onboarding, is we can go find our agents and we can put them on a search or on a watch list, I should say. I won't do that right now. I'll just show you how easy it is. So we have the list of agents. Let's go through and do this. So let's say these are your agents for your team. We can then create a watch list. So this could be my organization, right, or my team, however you want to think about it. And then what you're going to do, is, and you can, by the way, you can share that list with other folks that you're working with. You can do a couple of different things with this. First, you will actually be able to see the activity of the agents that you're tracking right here. So anytime your agent does something, you'll be able to send them a celebratory note or email just like that. There's another way of thinking about this, and this in my account is not going to pull up eXp folks necessarily, but this is a good example of what you can see in the platform is we'll summarize what's happening in the agent's businesses. So in this case, right, Jean has the first closing at the brokerage, right? Or Margaret here has the first activity in 90 days, right? So first closing, first time making money in the last 90 days, which is really important when you think about the fact that we're in a slow market. And so you can see a bunch of different kind of notification types. And so you can actually get this about your agents, and then you can use that to reach out. And so when you have a list of agents, right, that is, when you have a list of your agents, you'll also be able to see how they're tracking, right? So we added all of these folks, and we'll be able to kind of go through very quickly and take a look, okay, what's happening in their business? Is it down? Is it up? How are things trending? What's the amazing close to list price ratio? These are all the types of things that we can use when it gets into coaching conversations with our agents. And so that's what we can get that set up for you, your team, your organization, and the onboarding. And then it's very easy to track what's going on with them, such that you can offer that support and a helping hand when you need it. If you're in a role, Rahul, where maybe there's a few different people who are collaborating on the coaching and the management of the agents, you can actually collaborate on Corded, right? So you could actually go in, you could say, at Elena, who's my colleague, this will trigger an email to her. Actually, Alex needs to know about our new listing presentation and the upcoming team event. That's going to actually create an email to your colleague, Elena, in this case, which will then she'll be able to click on a link and be able to brought to this place in the platform. And so you'll be able to see a record of all of the different things that you're doing with your own agents right there in the platform. So there's going to be kind of good, solid documentation and history of the different things that you've done. And you can actually log that you've had check-ins and other things with your organization if that's something that you want to do. Okay, we're close to being up on time here. I would love to hear if folks have any questions. Feel free to throw them in the chat. More than happy to do that. We actually offer, as you may or may not imagine, based on the demo that I just showed you, Corded is considered the premium product when it comes to recruiting and retention in the industry. So it's typically quite an expensive solution because of the various things that we do. But the good news is that we have a very close and strategic relationship with eXp, which means we have highly discounted pricing for eXp teams. It starts at $300 a month. And so typically you bring on one agent into the organization who's a producer. It's already paid for itself. Most folks are doing much more than that, even in their first month. So we'd be really excited to talk to you about how we do that and, of course, give you your own personal demo and those types of things. The best way to get in touch with us, if you're curious to have that kind of personal demo and walk through the platform, answer any questions that you have, is via the Calendly link that I just sent in the chat. So if you click on that Calendly link, it will schedule a time with someone on my team, and then we'll be able to answer any specific questions that you have. But we're lucky to have had something like, I think it's like close to 100 agents sign up over the last, since eXpCon. So we've had a lot of really good traction with the organization in terms of folks who are, in fact, looking to make attraction a big part of the strategy this year. Rahul, please feel free to book the Calendly. We'd love to show you more about retention. But generally speaking, we're using data to inform you what's happening. We're telling you about the milestones and then giving you an opportunity to reach out. And then using the profile, we can compare the agent to the market. We can suggest different things that are opportunities for either improvement or celebration with any of those agents. Laura has a question, which is, I want to be sure I understood correctly. Even if I'm licensed in one state, do I have access nationwide? That's a great question. So let's say, Laura, you are based in Miami, Florida, and you want to have access to Atlanta, Georgia. We can give you access to the MLS in Atlanta, Georgia, because eXp is contracted with us in all of those places, and the local managing broker in Atlanta is supervising your access. So you can actually pick from any of the markets that Corded is connected to for access anywhere you want. And many people are doing this in their feeder markets, or really if they just find that they can attract well in an area where maybe eXp has less coverage right now. You can pick and choose, and we'd be happy to talk to you about how you do that if you schedule time with our team. Thanks. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer while we're still here? The price is not the same. There's an additional fee for each MLS. So you're going to want to pick which MLS that you would want, but each MLS is the same price as another MLS. But we can walk through all of those details with you. There are also some really, really large MLSs that have hundreds of thousands of agents. If you're looking to have kind of the most bang for your buck with that $300 cost, all of that kind of stuff. You can absolutely add things like birthdays. We also know when the agent switches companies, so we have that. Irene, yes, good question. Rahul, 300 is not the price for the whole country. It's for your first MLS. And often we'll recommend either picking your MLS or a very large one. And then it's cheaper to add MLSs if you then have a second or third or so on. We'll also have scenarios in which if there's several members of your organization, you can each pick one, right? So you all kind of doing distinct things within different territories. So there's a number of different ways that we can get it set up for you, depending on what your needs are. Well, thank you. I'll stay on for another minute or two in case some more questions come in. But really nice to speak with you today. Thanks so much for your time, and hopefully get to meet you soon. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.